Back in college, I had a nickname, which was the procrastination queen. I would essentially just not do anything until like 2 days before an exam or an assignment, in which I had enough guilt and anxiety and really just like self-hatred so that it would actually motivate me enough to get started, and I would do whatever I had to do in a panic and then either submit an assignment or do the exam. And it was really sad because during that amount of time, I wasn't actually enjoying myself. You know, I would feel really guilty. I would just be like watching anime or just like sometimes even just like laying in bed and doing nothing the entire day, and that would make me feel terrible. I didn't feel productive. I didn't feel useful, and I had so much guilt because I wasn't doing anything with it, and I also wasn't going to class. So it was pretty much time that was just being wasted. And it wasn't like I didn't have any goals or like things that I wanted to do. I had so many things that I wanted to try, so many things I wanted to do, but none of it ever happened. I would just be laying there feeling guilty and never actually do anything to start achieving my goals. And then I read some productivity books such as Atomic Habits, and my entire life changed and everything became wonderful. Just kidding. I wish it was that easy. However, it did set things into motion. I learned a lot of things about productivity, but what really stuck out the most to me was the idea of building systems of habits that align with the person who you want to be. What I realized is that it wasn't me that was a failure. It was my systems, like my habits, that let me down. My habits were terrible, and that was the thing that was hindering me from achieving the goals that I wanted to achieve. So I knew I had to build systems of habits that would put me in a position where I can actually achieve my goals, but it was so much easier said than done. It actually took me 5 years until all these habits that I built started paying off, and I actually saw a noticeable difference in my life. So for those of you who are struggling with this right now, understand that systems and habits, they're not like gonna magically happen. And it also takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to break bad habits too. In this video, I'm gonna evaluate the systems of habits I built into my life that can be broadly broken into 3 categories of career, learning, and life. So for each of these habits, first I'll talk about what the habit is and how it aligns towards the person who I want to be. Second is how I managed to form the habit and why I think it works for me. And third, how much it affects my life. First category is career. For those of you who don't know me, let me first give a really quick background of my career. So I started off as a pharmacology undergraduate, and I was pre-med until I decided that I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. And then I got a job in bioinformatics research, did my master's in computer science, and now I'm a data scientist at a FANG company in tech. So the first habit in the career section is get a job to get a job. Quite confusing, isn't it? Let me explain. So right around end of senior year, I finally realized that I didn't actually want to become a doctor. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll just go into bioinformatics. So I was like, okay. I took these 2 classes in Python in my final year, and I didn't actually learn anything because I wasn't really paying attention. So I'm gonna like actually learn how to code so I can go get a job in bioinformatics. So I tried doing that, right? Like I read some books, you know, I like did some courses and stuff, but it just didn't stick. I would do like a course or something for 2 weeks, and then I would just give up. And then I'll do another one, and then I would give up. And I just never really got anywhere. But just by chance, I had a friend who was talking about the research professor that he was working with, and they were hiring someone to do some bioinformatics type things, but it would be an unpaid volunteer research job. So I jumped at that position. They hired me because I was not even getting paid, so it was like 0 risk to them. And that job really helped me focus on what to actually learn, and also gave me a sense of responsibility, because even though I wasn't being paid, I was expected to deliver this to someone who is higher up than me, right? Like I gave my word that I would do it, so I have to do it. I was able to learn all the things I needed to get that project done, and I did my deliverable. And after doing all of that, I felt like I had an inkling of what data science feels like. I obviously still didn't know that much about data science, but this like kind of pseudo job that I got, it gave me a project to do, which forced me to actually learn things and gave me that experience. I also have a project now on my portfolio, and I also had a research professor, like that professor's name, that I could use on my resume. Then I started applying to other bioinformatics jobs, like proper bioinformatics jobs, and I convinced a professor to hire me there. So this was like an actual proper job in bioinformatics where the professor would actually pay me. And when I started on a job, I realized again that I didn't actually know anything. The entire lab was working in R, and I did not know any R at all. So I had to teach myself R. And it was also up to another level because the work that I was doing is directly contributing towards having a paper published. So there's like a very high bar of standard that was being set. So I also had to learn how to actually do data science properly. I quickly learned on the job. Again, that social accountability was there, and also this professor was paying me, so I couldn't just like leave, right? So all of that added together, it helped me focus on learning the things I needed to learn so that I could achieve my project and do these things properly, and also deliver to my professor so that he would not fire me. When I got that proper bioinformatics job, that was when I truly realized the power of this habit of getting a job to get a job. It's a way of allowing me to focus on a project and learn the actual things that needed to be learned instead of being overwhelmed with information. It has social accountability that was being built into it, so I couldn't just give up when things got hard. And I would also get paid for it, which is quite nice. After realizing this, I repeated this cycle several times until I eventually ended up now as a data scientist. In terms of the impact this habit has had in my life, I would rate it 5 out of 5. It's the habit that really kickstarted my career, and I think if I haven't implemented this habit, I would not be where I am right now. So if you're in a similar position of wanting to change your career, where to fast track your career, I think this is a really, really powerful habit. All right. Habit number 2 under the career category is the one thing. I have to give credit to Kenji, whose channel I will link in the descriptions. He was the one that recommended this book called The One Thing, which talks all about what this one thing is. But to summarize, it's basically focusing each day on only doing a single task, the task that is the most important for that day, instead of being scattered-minded and then trying to run around do a bunch of different things. This habit has been very helpful because my lifestyle these days, I have a lot of things that are going on. I have my real job. I also have YouTube stuff, and I have courses that I'm making, a bunch of different things that are happening. And I found myself very scattered and doing a bunch of different things and not actually focusing on doing the things that mattered the most. And I wanted to build this habit because it would be something that aligned with my idea of becoming more productive and becoming more intentional with my time so that I can achieve the things that I want to achieve. Instead of having one single thing, I actually have 2 things technically. One thing is non-work related, so it could be my trading stuff, YouTube related or course related, but just not job related. And the second thing that I have every day is something that is job related. The split works for me because I would do that one non-job related thing before I start work. And then when I start work, I would be focusing on that one thing for my job. It did take a little bit of trial and error to get that kind of tweaked version of 2 separate things. And the way in which I would actually get this habit to stick is that I would write those 2 separate things either on my window. So every time I look at the window, I would be staring at it, or I would put a sticky on my laptop. So in this way, I'll be distracted or whatever. I'm oh, I should check some emails. And then I look up and I'm oh, great. That's the one thing that I was supposed to do. And then I would go do that. In terms of impact in my life, I would rate this 3 out of 5. It has helped me be less stressed out in trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. And it's also made me more focused and intentional on the thing that is the most important on that day. I would recommend trying to build this habit for people who have a lot of different things on their plate. All right, second category is the category of learning. Learning new things is a very important value to me. I find that I'm the happiest when I'm learning something new every day. I think it's also quite handy to learn different things and be able to synthesize that information and apply it to different fields. However, learning new things is pretty hard, and I think that's mainly for 3 different reasons. The first one is that it's hard to carve out time to actually consistently learn something because you have so many other things that are going on in your life. The second reason is that when you first start learning something, it can feel really overwhelming because you're not sure what information that you should be learning, and there's just so many things that you're unsure about. And the third reason is something that is known as the dip. This is from a very nice little book called The Dip, and this is what it looks like. Your x-axis is your time and your effort that you put in, and the y-axis is the actual results. And what you see is a curve that looks like this, because in the beginning there's a lot of low-hanging fruits and it's super fun and stuff, so you spend a little bit of energy and time and you see a lot of results from it. But at a certain point, before you actually master that skill, you kind of fall into this dip where you start realizing that there's a lot of fundamentals of that skill that you need to learn first before you can actually start advancing more. And then you feel like you're not making that much progress because you have to establish that strong foundation of that skill first. And then, your results are not really showing any progress, but you're putting in more effort. And this is the place that a lot of people quit. Now, the habit that I built to make learning new things a very consistent part of my life is by live streaming my study sessions. I live stream 3 times a week for 100 minutes or 2 Pomodoros. And I have to say that this is one of my favorite habits that I've established because it just presses all my buttons in the right way. I'm held extremely accountable in a social sense because I have a deep desire to not let other people down. And since I'm announcing my live streams and other people join my live streams, I have to go there. I have to actually go to them, right? So it keeps me very accountable and I show up. And then also the community that's being built around it is extremely inspiring since everybody everybody is trying to learn stuff. By doing this consistently for 5 or 6 months now, it's actually become such a deeply ingrained habit of mine that I actually find myself like almost automatically just showing up to these live streams because I've just done it so many times now. Now to talk about the impact on my life. I'll rate this 4 out of 5. I think it's not as significant as the 5 out of 5, which is my career stuff, which was like huge changes in my life. I think this is one of those things that over time is going to become a 5 out of 5 because it's a perfect illustration of what is known as the 1% rule, which is the fact that if you assume that you start at 1, right, and you improve yourself by 1% 365 days, which is a year, you would actually be at 37.78. That daily 1% improvement really adds up. In comparison to if you stayed the same, you would still be at 1. And of course, if you actually get worse by 1% every single day for an entire year, you'll be at 0.03. So as you can see, that 1% of difference every day really starts adding up. I'm learning something, well, not every single day, but 3 days a week. And over time, I know it's something that's going to start accumulating and it's going to be something that's going to pay huge dividends in the future. If you want to join these live streams, I will also post the link to Study with Tina's second channel where I post my live streams. Third category of life. There's a lot that I was thinking about talking about in this category. So to make sure that the video isn't super long, I'm only going to talk about 2 things. The first one is exercise. I don't think I need to talk about why exercise is so good for you. For me, the habit that I've established is by exercising at least 3 times a week. This is a combination of biking for cardio as well as resistance training. So how did I get this to work and why do I think it works? This is one that has taken me quite a while to actually get down. So I'm pretty proud of it. Like a lot of people, I was very inconsistent with exercising. I would kind of go and then stop going for the past 3 or 4 years. And I would just never consistently go to actually see results in both my body and in terms of my mindset. What I actually did to make it consistent though, is a concept called chaining. Chaining is a concept that's about you have one habit that's already solidly established and then putting another habit immediately after that habit. So that first habit kind of becomes a cue for the second habit to start. So the way it works for me is that I live stream 3 times a week, right? And I chained this act of exercise right after I live stream. So I'm very consistent with these live streams. And then immediately after that, I would either go for a bike ride or go for resistance training. And over time, that in itself has also become a habit. By doing this over a period of time, I also started seeing a lot more changes in both my body and my mindset. And that in itself, that seeing that progress is also kind of a feedback loop that makes me more motivated to keep doing this habit as well. Not to mention something kind of unintentional that happened was that now whenever I feel upset or I feel like just like kind of not great, I automatically just want to go on a bike ride now because I realized that after going on a bike ride, my brain just becomes a lot more calm and I usually have a plan of action for whatever it is that's frustrating me. Impact on life, I would say it's a 3 out of 5. It's more of a subtle thing and this is one of those things that also takes quite a while to start showing. But over the past few months, by being more consistent with my exercising, I've just really started to notice a difference. My mind is like clear, I have more energy, and I think I have better biceps now. Second habit in the life category is having a separate space for a divider for work. I have this really intense relationship with my bed. Like I see my bed and it calls to me and I have to go on it. And once I go on my bed, no matter what I say I'm gonna do, like no matter how I trick myself about how I'm gonna study or do whatever, this always happens. I don't know. I just feel like I just kind of like melt into my bed and become one with my bed and either take a nap or just like watch anime. Like it literally happens every single time. So in order to combat this, a habit that I first started was that I would take a divider. Wait, actually it's that divider over there. Okay, I started with like taking this divider and then I would move it so that I can no longer see my bed. It's such a small thing, but it made such a huge difference because I couldn't see it anymore. I would actually like sit at my table. And when I sit at my table, I'm far more productive and I actually do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. This will work like 80% of the time, but then there's like just that 20% that would, you know, sometimes make me still go on my bed. So after the pandemic started, the housing prices started dropping a lot. And I was actually able to grab another studio apartment at a really cheap price at the building that I'm living in right now. I now have a secondary space in which I do all my work in, which is the space that you see right now. By putting even more distance between me and my bed, I would say it works like maybe 90% of the time now. Like the call of my bed is just really strong. So I think 90% is already really good for me. I think this is like a really interesting example. It's one of those things where it's such a small change, but it actually makes such a huge difference. I would give it 3 out of 5 in terms of amount of impact it's had on my life. It's definitely made me more productive and I think I've like done more work in the long run. All right. This wraps up this video. I hope that this video was helpful for you and just illustrates how difficult it can be to establish a habit, but how once you do and you figure out how to do it in your life, it can have huge changes. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next live stream or video.